Welcome to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank studio. Hope you're having a great day as we continue to celebrate all the wonderful people who are making this state, Mississippi, such a great place to live, work, and play. Listen, in the second half of the show today, we're going to be talking with Nicole Martz, who is head of marketing and public relations for the Mississippi Aquarium. We've known her through her passion for tourism in coastal Mississippi, but looking forward to catching up with Nicole. And then right now we're going to go to my friend Dave Dennis, longtime community leader, former gubernatorial candidate. He and his family run specialty contractors. Dave has a really, really good finger on the pulse of the economy, not just because of his business, but also because of his 7-year run at the Federal Reserve and so on. So, Dave, how you doing, my friend?
No, it's almost summertime, man. The fish are biting, as you know, and once the water temperature gets up above about 73, 74, Kobe or Ling, whatever you choose to call them, start running, and it's a new season by the time the water starts warming, and that's where we are.
Yeah,
and
we have it. Listen,
life is good.
Both boats, I have 3 boats. Two of the bigger boats are literally in the shop as we speak. One getting service, and one getting a new lower unit.
So, I know what that means.
We hit something along the way. It just does things happen. You know what it is when you own a boat. People say that you make a big hole in the water and pour money in it. And we, for the most part, have been very lucky. The way I approach my boats is bring them in once a year, and I tell them to do whatever needs to be done. I never skimp. You know,
if you need to redo impellas or water pumps, whatever you need to do, we actually did that. I went out to Horn Island on Sunday with 5 grandkids, ages 3 to 8, and that's a happening in its own right. But it's water's gorgeous, calms for sea. It was maybe a 1-foot chop. It really was a really wonderful trip. Beautiful weather, so 'tis the season to get out and enjoy the outdoors.
Yeah, hey, listen, we do that a lot. We do a lot of time at Horn. We always bring our grandkids with us, and our ages are about right there with your ages.
They
and
are.
It's so much fun. When you have grandkids, man, it helps remind you what in life is really important. All the success that you've had in your life is really about giving back to your family and being able to enjoy time with your family. That's what it's really about, isn't
it? Right. 100% correct. And if you can provide that opportunity for your kids to at least see that there's a chance to enjoy life, be successful, and also enjoy life and give back to your community and be a contributor, I think if they're givers, to me, that gives them the sense of completion that we're trying to instill in kids and in grandkids at this point.
I know that's the case. Hey, listen, specialty contractors is a unique business. You can remind people what it is you guys do, but you do have, as a result of the work that you're doing, not just in Mississippi, but maybe along the Southeast region, you have a real good sense of how things are moving in terms of capital investment, et cetera. Tell them about your business and then give us your read on what you're seeing in the economic situation.
Well, just a broad brush thumbnail. Specialty contractors is I'm a second generation. My children are running it now. They're third generation, but it's a 65, 70-year-old company that we've taken, and actually it has expanded in terms of what we're doing and how we're doing it in the last 10 years. And that is thanks to my children, Kate and Patrick, that are in there running it. But Ricky, we've in the past year worked in probably 6 states. Over the course of the last 40 years, we've done maybe 11,000 commercial and industrial jobs as a subcontractor, not a general contractor, though we will do some GC work. But saying that, there are pockets of strong economy. There are pockets of what I would consider to be above average, so to speak, activity economically. And candidly, the coast is one of them. Now, some of it's residential. You drive along the beach and you'll see nothing but massive houses going up. You go inland, you see what are subdivisions with 10, 20, 40, 60, 100 homes being built all over the coast, which to me says that what we've been selling over the past 30 years, that this is a great place to live. It's an opportunity economically. It's an opportunity quality of life wise with great public school systems, exceptional parochial school systems, and other other school options. You have elementary, secondary, and post-secondary college opportunities on this coast, which is a draw. You have economic and job opportunities. That's a draw. Now, how do we keep kids here? That's the biggest question is, how do you get your kids educated and keep them here? And that's a little bit of a disconnect at this point because other than a few professions, medical, perhaps legal, and family businesses, there's only a limited number of super opportunities. So that's what people like you've been doing and some of us that have been very active in this whole equation for many, many years have tried to provide. But in terms of the economy, coastal wise, Panhandle of Florida on fire. Mobile, we've got just many things going on. New Orleans, there's constantly something going on down there. So commercially, and I'm not going to speak residentially in those areas, but commercially and industrially seems to be going good. Adrian Slack, the head of the Federal Reserve for the Southeast, was in the office last week and for an hour, and the sense of what's really going on tends to be pervasive around the Southeast more so than some other parts of the country. So the Federal Reserve's sense of where we're going, it's going to always be cautiously not optimistic. It's going to be cautious, but at this point, it's cautiously optimistic. And I do stay engaged with them. It's kind of like the Hotel California. You can check out, but you never get to leave them. But it's really a good sense and a good feel and a good metric on what's really going on in the economy.
Well, you played a big role in the New Orleans Regional Federal Reserve. You've been a national facilitator for the Federal Reserve. You've had so many different roles. But when you think about that experience, understanding monetary policy and understanding the role of the legislature and Congress, et cetera, I mean, it really provides such great depth of understanding about, first of all, how complicated things are, the role that politics plays in all of this and so on. It's a pretty dynamic situation, isn't it?
Well, I would tell you, it's an MBA, it's a PhD, it's an on the job. Honestly, it's the best gig. I hate to say this for organizations I've been part of. It's the best gig I've ever had because of the talent level that you're dealing with. But the Fed deals with the monetary policy, money supply, so to speak, and Congress deals with fiscal policy, FIS, CAL, fiscal policy. So as nice as it sounds to go pay off something or put money in a program legislatively, there are repercussions. It's almost like, for every action, there's a reaction. Well, every item you try to do legislatively to help people, which is very admirable, and I think we all want a safety net for people, there are repercussions on inflation, on other items such as national debt, which impacts your national security. If you go borrow too much money, we got a ton of money borrowed from the Chinese. We got a ton of money borrowed from a lot of other sources. So that is just like at home. If you've got a mortgage and a second mortgage on the house and then a car note and a boat note, suddenly you're going to turn around and go, well, golly, we got a little cash problem. Well, that's where the country is right now with a $30 trillion debt. So fiscal policy impacts how inflation has gone. And I think, you see that the core prices are up about 3 or 3.3% the last few months consecutively. Reality is, if you throw in energy and food, the items of core prices that are not actually in there, you've got a 9 or 10% inflation now. And even during 21 and 22, when you were here and we had a 9% inflation rate, pour all of those components that are the reality of you living, you were at 20 to 22% inflation in my estimation. That tends to be what I was reading from very learned people. So, it impacts it significantly.
Hey, and Dave, when you look at it from that perspective, which is maybe you could call the real household inflation, what the average person is having to deal with when they're sitting down writing their checks and trying to make ends meet. When you look at that,
if you're at 10%, you're lucky right now.
I mean, listen, that's going to have a tremendous impact on this presidential race.
Well, it will. I mean, honestly, it will. And, you can do crazy things like release petroleum from a petroleum reserve and try to do a supply and demand and bring gas prices down. All of that's artificial and all of it's temporary. So, but you just got to get to the core sense of, and this is not a political comment, it's a common sense comment. You got to get to the core of, we're spending more than this country should be spending, and the same is true at home. You can work yourself into just slowly, methodically work yourself into a debt hole, and that's what we got to be careful of. And candidly, you want to know what destroyed the Soviet Union? They tried to outspend us on Star Wars, and in reality, they overspent their budget, or to quote my friend Greg Cronin, they outran their headlights financially. And you can easily do that. Since you're in the Citizens Bank studio, I thought I'd throw that plug in for Cronin. But I used to chair his bank. But if you look at those types of situations, Ricky, I'm not saying we're at an inflection point in the country, but I'll just give you, for instance, our debt to GDP is about 120% right now. Iceland went down a few years ago at 120. Greece went down about 128%. So just keep in mind, don't need to spend any more money.
We'll pick it up. We'll pick it up there on the other side. Dave Dennis from Specialty Contractors. We'll see you after this break.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank studio. I'm sure that Citizens Banks enjoyed that little plug that Dave gave them going into the break. But yeah, Greg Cronin, what a great leader in coastal Mississippi. I've really enjoyed working with him over a number of years, and you were right to give him props. That's for sure.
Well, in full disclosure, I got paid $100 a month to chair the bank, so go figure.
Good for you. Good for you. Hey, listen, Dave, as you think about, how things are going just in coastal Mississippi. You mentioned education. There's some great public school districts here. As you pointed out, good parochial schools. I had lunch recently with some leaders at William Carey. And man, I mean, first of all, here is this private institution that is way more nimble than a public institution can be. And what they've done with, starting their medical school and their pharmacy school, and man, they're actually, this campus they're building on the coast, they're serious.
They are serious. I don't know that you'll see the center of gravity of William Carey move from Hattiesburg to the coast, but there's going to be a significant center of gravity down here. And candidly, it's close enough in, even though it's out on Traditions Highway. I live in Pass Christian. It's less than 30 minutes from here for me. Yeah. From Ocean Springs, less than 30 minutes. Yeah. So it's not a bad dynamic. What USM was trying to do 30 years ago, that leaders such as your predecessor, Roland Weeks, and Ron Parasich, Gene Ward, George Slogel, people of that caliber that were working so hard to get a 4-year institution on the coast, they succeeded with USM, and thank goodness they did. William Carey had a presence here, but they have exploded the presence post-Katrina. And I think a lot of it has to do with just geographic location, moving off the beach. They had more land to expand. And by getting off the beach, it also was able to draw people in from the northern reaches of the counties and perhaps lower, Stone and other counties. So it's a draw. And not only is it a draw, it's a phenomenal product. And the emphasis they put on the medical industry and curriculum, it's beyond amazing to me. It's not just impressive. It is phenomenal.
Yeah. So Dave, it's interesting. You look at Southern Miss. I'm a graduate of Southern Miss, a proud member of the Hall of Fame of Southern Miss. But when I was an employee at the Sun Herald, I was going to night school, finishing up my business degree at Guff Park, and I formed an organization called Students for Higher Education on the Coast. It was during the discussions around we need to have full-scale 4-year university capabilities on the coast. That was back in the 80s. And what's interesting, Here we are at 2024, and they're still sort of struggling with this. You know what I mean? It's still, and Joe Paul and I've had the current president of USM, I'm thrilled that he's in that position. But, the mothership tends to take too much of the attention, too many of the resources, and whatever. They tried to sort of I would say strategically focus the coast. And to some extent, I think that probably hasn't helped them. While at the same time, William Carey continues to expand. And you talked about the center of gravity. I wouldn't be surprised because of the current leadership of William Carey, that the center of gravity doesn't begin to shift to the coast.
Well, I think
just because of the
Ricky,
reality.
the trend is doing that. I don't know if it'll get beyond the 50% inflection point, but you nailed it when you said the difference in William Carey being a private institution and nimble. You can get your board of trustees at William Carey together, and I've not been in one of the meetings, so I'm hypothetically suggesting you can get them together and decide, all right, we have this much allocated for capital improvements. We'll decide Tuesday night, this is where we're spending it. With a public institution, you have to certainly get IHL approval and perhaps legislative considerations, and how are you doing your appropriations? And I mean, it's simply
it's
nimble.
harder.
Maybe I don't know of a better word than nimble, but they have the ability to maneuver very quickly and effectively.
The other I think big education kind of headline is Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College. Over 50% of its students now are in non-traditional education, job training and things like this. Some of their jobs, you can come out of a 2-year program making 6 figures, my friend. I mean, it's a big deal. I mean, what they've done to respond to the economic needs of Mississippi has been tremendous. One of the top community college systems in the United States right here in coastal Mississippi. That's great to see that, isn't it?
Well, it's wonderful. And a man from Mobile, Cam Matson, spoke at Gulf Coast Business Council's annual meeting, I guess, earlier this week. And he spoke to the fact that your traditional students, though, and there are still plenty of them, they want to come out of school with a whole different perspective. This 8-to-5 deal, that's not very appealing. It's remote. And an interesting thing, though, he made a comment. One of the more salient points he made about remote learning, so to speak, but more importantly, remote working, is you lose the chemistry of working in the office. So consequently, one of the complaints about people that are working remote is, I'm not getting promotions, I'm not getting lifted up into the upper echelon, so to speak, of an organization. Well, it's familiarity. It's being in front of people. It's understanding. It's the boss, so to speak, being able to see they can navigate these problems and they have a chemistry with others, so they are a leader. If you're on a remote situation at home on your computer, nobody knows if you've got instinctive, intuitive leadership characteristics. You need to, from my point of view, and I'm a traditionalist, but from my point of view, you need to have a physical presence there. That's what he spoke to for, 5 or 10 minutes, just specifically that the I'm going to call them kids, the Gen X, Gen Zs, and maybe the youngest of the millennials, certainly not baby boomers, but those generations are simply not engaging socially like most of us that are whatever age we happen to be, and me older than you. It's a characteristic that I think the society is losing. And though you can be productive in so many ways remotely, there's also a sense of leadership, of ownership, so to speak, within your organization and community pride that comes from being together. And that's a missing link that's going to have to be some way, somehow woven into the workforce. But William Carey's doing a good job of it. Gulf Coast Community College, Mary Graham is phenomenal, and USM in this presence is also. All of them know that that's not a trend. That's a movement. It's beyond a trend.
Hey, it's been fun watching Justin, my son Justin, who you know really well. You inspired him to go to Auburn, I should tell the people. But Justin, in his job at Price Waterhouse has 350,000 employees around the world. 350,000. And Justin is working directly for the CEO of the company on the international team. In fact, he's going to join us in Miramar Beach. He has to leave early because he's headed to Shanghai for a meeting. He was in India recently, but it's interesting. What they've done is a good mix. They do some remote working, but they're back to the teams meeting face to face again. And so they learned a lot that remote helps with quality of life issues, et cetera. But there is no trade-off for face to face, getting to know people better, understanding who they are, and just getting to know them as human beings. But it's so interesting watching a company with 350,000 employees and how they operate. You know, it's so cool.
Well, you can read a text, but you can't read the voice inflection in a text. You can't read the eye movement. You can't read, are they rolling their eyes when they're doing their text and going, okay, I got to respond to this knucklehead. But it's you can sense it, and you've got an innate ability to do that. You can sense people's feelings in general, not necessarily their thoughts, but you know whether they're with you or not with you. And that's very difficult to do, even with what you're doing right now. Us face to face, as well as I know you, is still, you know, I don't know if you got on flip flops like Jimmy Buffett or if you got on, you know, wingtips. It doesn't matter. But it's a sense of inclusion that I think remote positioning does. But Cam Matson spoke to that significantly the other day at Business Council, and everyone in that room was very attentive, very, very attentive, because it's.
We learned a lot. You know, we see this a lot. These are business trends, but during the pandemic, there was this huge pendulum swing for all the reasons that we all understand and support to remote work. And what happened is, you know, I knew someone literally remotely was working 2 full-time jobs. You follow me? The two companies didn't know that. But you don't want that. You can't have that.
No, it's divided loyalties. You can't. You've got to have one master. I think ethically and also spiritually, you need one master. But you start serving 2 or 3 in the workforce, something's going to get a little tangled.
It's not good.
One other thing he said is that the trends don't appear to be going back very quickly to the office arena. That the South has more of a tendency to have the inclusionness of I would say, workforces coming back into the office, but not so much in your CBDs of your central city areas.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. It'd be interesting to see how all that plays out. I predict a nice combination of both. Yeah, hey, listen, Dave Dennis, it's been a pleasure to catch up with you, my friend.
All right, Ricky, have a safe Memorial Day, and we thank our troops, and we thank those that provide the freedom for us to sit here and visit this afternoon.
You bet. Hey, listen, we'll have Nicole Martz from the Mississippi Aquarium after this. We'll see you after this.